My name is Sloan Mercer. You've probably seen someone like me before, quiet in the corner, always taking notes. The one people forget to make eye contact with when things get loud. That used to bother me. Now, I use it. I wasn't always this composed. But what happened at that job, the day they fired me, the way they laughed, as if I were just another easily discarded admin, something flipped. You might actually regret skipping this part. Because the moment they told me I was not a good fit anymore, I smiled. Not because I was fine. I wasn't, but because I already knew what they didn't. And what I did next. Let's just say you're going to want to sit down for it. So before you sit back and listen, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the Final Revenge channel, but only if you really like what I have to say here. Now get in the mood to listen to this story because it might be the ultimate sweet revenge. You shuffle into the meeting room at 4:58 p.m., heart tight in your chest. No warning, no email, just a vague, "Can we talk?" from your boss that morning. That's never good. The HR rep is already seated, a folder in front of her like it's a formality. You've seen that folder before. You've drafted those exact letters back when your job still meant something. They give you a speech. Downsizing. Budget constraints. Not personal. All that corporate jazz. You nod, listening carefully. You let them finish. Then your boss says something. Something he'll later deny under oath. He chuckles. We figured you'd go quietly. You don't react. But inside, you're already rearranging your mental filing cabinet. You remember the email he sent with your name misspelled in the subject line. The time you stayed after hours rewriting his deposition summary while he drank with clients. The conference call where he accidentally muted you for an entire hour. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Quiet means archived. You ask if this is final. The HR rep nods, all professional empathy. Your boss just shrugs. And that's it. You're out. They hand you a box. One of those "oops, we meant to appreciate" you boxes with a stapler, a few pens, and the succulent you bought yourself 6 months ago. As you walk out, someone from Legal Todd maybe passes you in the hallway. He doesn't meet your eyes, but you remember him. You remember his signature, and you remember what he left in your inbox last December. By the time you hit the parking garage, the tears are welling. Not because you're scared, but because you've finally been underestimated enough. You sit in your car, breathe in through your nose, and open your notes app. The top line reads, "Retaliation, timeline, witnesses," and under that, you type, "Let's begin." You don't call a lawyer, not yet. Instead, you brew a cup of mint tea, sit cross-legged on the living room floor, and open your old hard drive. Inside, years of digital breadcrumbs, meeting agendas, off-the-clock Slack conversations, and every one of your email backups just in case. They never locked you out of your access fast enough. Rookie mistake. You scroll past the office birthday photo folders, remembering how they made a big deal out of cupcakes, but never about pay raises, and open a folder titled Projects, Legal. You created that one? Labeled every subfolder yourself. Contracts, employee complaints, internal memos with passive-aggressive subject lines like "just touching base." And there it is. A PDF titled Conduct Policy, Final Revised. The one Todd asked you to format back when you were just the assistant but also somehow indispensable. You read it, every page, and your fingers tighten around the mug. Page 7, paragraph 3. Retaliation against internal complaints constitutes grounds for legal action. You filed a complaint last month. Anonymous, but it's logged. You know because HR CC'd you by accident on the follow-up note. They fired you a week later. You highlight that section, not because you're shocked, because now it's real, now it's evidence. The next day you go for a walk just to clear your head. But the sidewalk feels different now, like the ground itself is waiting. You pass a bookstore, duck in, and buy a fresh notebook. The kind with firm edges and pages that crack when you open them. The cover reads, "This might be your story." You take it as a sign. Back at home, you start mapping the timeline. Complaint filed. March 14th. Boss's joke about loyalty. March 29th. HR check-in. April 3. Termination. April 8th. Each date a pin in the board. And then the final line you write in all caps across the top. Sloan Mercer Vitimetusi, Baxton Holdings NC, because they thought you were too quiet to fight, too kind to remember, too weak to win. They were wrong on all three. You file in May. Procès. No lawyer. Just you, your mountain of receipts, and a black suit you haven't worn since your last court briefing years ago, the one you weren't invited to sit in on but wrote most of anyway. You walk into the courthouse alone, not shaking, not smiling, focused. The clerk barely glances at your paperwork before stamping it. Copy for the defendant. You nod. Slide the thick manila envelope across the counter. Baxton Holdings, Inc. The company that thought you'd slink away quietly with your succulent and stapler was officially served. They had 30 days to respond. They did it in 9. Your ex-boss hired corporate counsel, a guy with too much gel in his hair and a smug LinkedIn bio. The kind of lawyer who refers to himself as results-oriented in group texts. You get the reply packet in the mail. 12 pages of condescension. They call your complaint frivolous, say you lack standing, say your filing is amateur in nature. There's even a line about your emotional misinterpretation of professional dynamics. Cute. You smile, because you know something they don't. You didn't just file for show. You filed correctly. Page numbers, subsection citations, case references that took you 2 weeks of insomnia and black coffee to research. You even triple-checked the formatting. You send your rebuttal. 3 days later, the court schedules a hearing. Just a preliminary one. A scheduling conference. But still movement. Progress. You show up 15 minutes early. They stroll in 2 minutes late. Gel hair lawyer sees you in the hallway and gives a smirk like he's already won. You nod politely. In the courtroom, the judge asks if you're representing yourself. You say, "Yes, Your Honor." He raises an eyebrow, flips through your filing. Then he says, clear and well organized, "Let's move forward." Gel hair lawyer blinks. You just sit still, because this isn't a game anymore. It's a story, and you're not the footnote. You're the author. The first trap comes by email. It's a friendly little note from opposing counsel, all pleasantries and pretend professionalism. They gently suggest you drop the suit before discovery, citing the emotional and financial toll that litigation can bring. You read it twice. Then you mark it as Exhibit A. A week later, they file a motion to dismiss buried in legalese, but you see the playbook. They're hoping to overwhelm you with jargon, force a hearing you're not prepared for, make you trip over a deadline or miss a format rule. But here's the thing. You used to be the one who proofed those motions. You used to be the one they trusted with redlining footnotes and double-checking case law citations because you're so detail-oriented, Sloan. You write your opposition motion in 3 nights. Not because it takes that long, but because you savor it. Page by page, you dismantle their claim that you have no grounds. You point to the internal documents you submitted with the original filings. You cite not 1 but 4 relevant precedents. And you do it all in a tone so professionally mild it could pass for decaf. The court denies their motion. Gel hair lawyer starts calling you Ms. Mercer in emails now. No more Sloan. The tone gets tighter, the sentences shorter. Discovery opens. They start flooding you with documents. Thousands of pages. You thank them for their cooperation. But here's the twist. You want the documents. Because buried inside are time-stamped Slack chats, old performance reviews, and emails that were never meant to leave the building. One of them, your boss laughing about firing someone right after a complaint. HR's just paperwork. We'll clean it up later. You print that one twice. One for the judge, one for your wall. Because this isn't just a fight anymore, it's a dissection. And you're already halfway through the anatomy. You call their star witness. They didn't expect that. Her name is Clarissa, the former HR director, the one they let go 6 months before UI. Officially, it was downsizing. Unofficially, everyone knew she was pushed. She picks up on the second ring. You introduce yourself. She pauses, then says, "Took you long enough." Turns out Clarissa kept her own receipts, emails, meeting notes, a resignation letter they never let her send. "I watched them try to erase you," she says. "I couldn't stop it then. But maybe now, I can." You file a subpoena. Gel hair lawyer tries to block it, claims she's biased, irrelevant, disgruntled. The judge allows it anyway. Courtroom day arrives. Clarissa walks in wearing a blazer like armor and heels that click with purpose. She's polite professional. But when they try to lead her into saying your termination was performance-based, she smiles. I wrote Sloane's last review, she says. It was exemplary. I recommended her for a promotion. The room shifts. Gel-hair lawyer fumbles. Then she adds, after Sloane reported internal misconduct, I was told not to speak to her again. They said she was radioactive. Beak. Silence. Then she looks at you. I'm here because this place tried to erase me too. But they forgot paper trails don't forget. You nod. And in that moment, you're not just standing up for yourself. You're standing up for every quiet person who was told to stay in their lane. They thought she'd back them. She buried them. You file her testimony as part of your official record. And afterward, Clarissa leans in and says softly, burn it down. But make it elegant. You smile. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You notice the black sedan parked across from your building. It's not paranoia. You've seen it 3 nights in a row. Engine idling, headlights off, driver half visible behind tinted glass. The first night you brush it off. The second night you take photos. The third night you walk straight up to the window and knock. A man lowers the glass slow and lazy. Aviator sunglasses at night. Polite smirk. The kind of guy who thinks silence is more intimidating than threats. Can I help you? You ask. He glances at a notepad in his lap. Just making sure everything's okay around here. You smile. It is now. He doesn't answer, just rolls the window up and drives off. Next morning, you get a call from someone in legal who used to like you, one of the good ones. He says quietly, they hired someone. Off the books. They're trying to rattle you. You thank him. Then forward the car photos to your inbox and CC them to your case file. Later that week, during a deposition scheduling call, you mention the car. You don't accuse, you just describe the license plate, the behavior, the tone. The judge furrows his brow. Gel-hair lawyer blinks 3 times. 2 days later, the car disappears. But you're not done. You file a formal complaint with the court harassment outside of discovery potential witness intimidation. Now it's on record. Now it's part of your case. And that little stunt, it backfires beautifully. Because intimidation only works when you don't know how to use it as evidence. You log it, you cite it, and you smile as you add another tab in your courtroom binder. Exhibit. Weak attempts. They keep underestimating you. And every time they do, you add another nail to the box they're building for themselves. Word count. NU 76. Waiting for continue. You said, continue. ChatGPT said, part 7. You find the email on a Sunday. It's buried in an old backup folder labeled something forgettable, meeting recap, ops. You nearly miss it, but something about the date catches your eye. It's from your ex-boss to another executive. Timestamp, 1 day after your formal complaint. The subject line, she's getting annoying. You open it. The body of the email is short-clipped. Let's accelerate her exit. We'll figure out the paperwork later. You sit very still. Then you open your notes. This is it. Intent. Direct. Unambiguous. Time-stamped. You flag the email. Save it 3 times. Print 2 copies. 1 goes in your binder. The other you place under your tea mug just to remind yourself what they think of annoying. You walk into court that week with that printout folded like a letter. It's your turn to present evidence. You pace it slowly, methodically. Set the stage. You describe the complaint you filed, the sudden shift in treatment, the abrupt termination. Then, with zero theatrics, you slide the email across the table to opposing counsel. Plaintiff's Exhibit 17, you say. Gel-hair lawyer reads it. His jaw flexes. You watch the judge's expression shift just slightly, but enough. The kind of look someone makes when they realize they've been listening to the wrong story. In response, the defense scrambles. They call the email misinterpreted. They say the language was informal. They try to spin it as non-actionable frustration. But you don't say a word. You just watch them dig. Because while they argue tone, you have intent. While they debate timing, you have sequence. And while they try to distract, you just stand still, quiet, calm, and undeniable. At recess, Jess texts you, "You just rattled their whole foundation." You reply, "Good. I'm not done." They invite you to a meeting off the record. It's hosted at a law office downtown, frosted glass, filtered water, that too clean corporate chill. Gel Hair Lawyer is joined by a new face, someone from PR based on the designer bag and lack of a legal pad. They call it a resolution discussion. You call it what it is, an attempt to make this whole thing go away quietly. They offer you a check, high five figures, enough to make most people blink. You don't blink. You let them talk about healing, about closure, about not dragging this through the mud. They ask you what it would take to make you comfortable. You smile gently. Then you open your purse and pull out your phone. Just so we're clear, you say, tapping the voice memo app, "This is being recorded. For my notes." PR woman shifts in her seat. Gel Hair Lawyer's smile freezes. You place the phone on the table and tap record. What follows is 23 minutes of them offering money in exchange for silence. No apology, no admission, just a clean exit. They even say the phrase mutual misunderstanding. You let them finish. Then you ask one question. If this was a misunderstanding, why are you offering me $85,000 to drop it? No one answers. When you stand to leave, Gel Hair Lawyer clears his throat. You understand this can't be used in court. You smile. Of course. But your voice memo, that goes straight into your file, along with a note that reads, "Their silence is worth more than this check, because you're not here for hush money. You're here for clarity." And the clearer things get, the more you see just how afraid they are of the truth coming out loud. You arrive early, again. This time, it's the motions hearing where the judge decides what makes it to trial. Gel Hair Lawyer shows up flanked by a junior associate and at least 30 pounds of paperwork. You have one binder, labeled, tabbed, color-coded. The bailiff holds open the door. You walk in, set your folder on the table, and sit. You don't speak right away, because silence now speaks volumes. The judge opens by asking a question not to the defense, but to you. "Miss Mercer, would you briefly summarize your position for the record?" You do, in under 2 minutes. No ums, no jargon. Just facts strung together with calm conviction. The judge nods. Opposing counsel launches into their argument. They talk for 23 minutes, cite obscure cases, question your credibility, paint you as emotional, say things like her lived experience, while regrettable, does not equate to unlawful conduct. You write one word on your notepad: minimize. When it's your turn, you stand slowly. You don't raise your voice. You don't pace. You just walk the court through your timeline. Complaint, retaliation, termination, evidence. You read directly from the conduct policy, the one they made you format. The judge actually smirks at that. Then you slide over the voice memo transcript from the resolution discussion and finish with the email. "Let's accelerate her exit." Silence. Gel Hair Lawyer reaches for water. Twice. The judge leans back, taps his pen, and says something you won't forget. Plaintiff's argument is concise and compelling. We'll proceed. You hear a sound behind you, like someone holding their breath. You don't turn around. You just gather your papers, slide the binder closed. You walk out of that courtroom not as a plaintiff who's barely hanging on, but as a storm with perfect posture. They call their CEO to the stand. You almost laugh. He enters like he owns the oxygen-tailored suit, teeth too, white handshake too hard. He's the reason you filed that complaint in the first place, the one who referred to your department as background noise. Now he's here, mic'd up, under oath. You watch him settle in, flip his cuffs, and glance at you like you're a napkin someone forgot to throw away. He thinks this is formality. He thinks you're going to crumble in the face of authority. You stand, walk to the podium. "Good afternoon, Mr. Delaney." "Good afternoon." Polite, arrogant. You begin. Simple questions at first, chain of command office procedures, who approves terminations. He answers confidently like he's reading from a brochure. Then you shift. "Were you aware of a formal complaint filed against your executive team in March?" His answer dances. He references general concerns and feedback loops. You show him the actual complaint. Dated, filed, received. He adjusts his tie. You move in. "Was it standard practice to terminate employees within 7 business days of lodging a formal complaint?" He says something about performance. You hand him a copy of your last review. 5 stars. Words like essential and future leader. You ask him to read it out loud. He stumbles, skips a sentence. You lean in softly. Are those your words? Pause. They were approved on your letterhead, sir. Silence. The courtroom starts to hum with tension. You close with the email. Let's accelerate her exit. Was this your idea? You ask. He doesn't answer. The judge repeats the question. He sighs, says it was a group decision. You thank him and sit. He shifts in his seat, no longer sure of the floor beneath him. Because in trying to play king, he forgot. You built the board. By the time you walk in the next morning, the defense table looks like a sinking ship. Their lead attorney won't make eye contact. The junior associate types furiously, her screen flashing tabs like SOS signals. And the CEO, he's not there. You're told he's no longer available for further questioning, which is fine. You weren't going to ask politely this time. Instead, you file a motion to admit new evidence, internal communications that just landed in your inbox last night. From who? An anonymous source. But the metadata checks out. The judge reviews the documents. You watch his eyes pause just for a second on an email thread where senior leadership argues about how best to manage optics post-termination. In that thread, someone suggests, let her sue. She doesn't have the stomach for court. The courtroom doesn't gasp, but it might as well have. You sit still, not out of calm, out of calculation, because this isn't about outrage. It's about structure, narrative. A slow reveal. One of the execs on that thread, Gerald, the VP of Operations, is called to testify the following day. He fumbles, hard, contradicts the CEO's testimony from the day before, admits he wasn't sure you were let go entirely because of performance, and then mutters something about being told to trust the process. You lock eyes with the judge. He nods once. The story is unraveling. Not because you shouted, not because you threatened, but because you were relentless. You didn't fight with fire. You fought with documents, facts. Silence held just long enough to make the truth echo. And now, they're not defending themselves. They're turning on each other. You close your binder and wait, because the structure is collapsing. And you're the one who pulled the blueprint. The first journalist shows up on day 3 of witness testimony. By day 5, there are 3 more. You don't acknowledge them, but you notice the pens, the murmurs in the hallway, the way court staff glance your way longer than usual. Then the headline drops. Fired paralegal turns, courtroom into corporate wrecking ball. It's not flattering, but it's not wrong. You check your phone that night. Over 100 new followers on LinkedIn. 27 friend requests from people you haven't seen since college. 3 voicemails from reporters asking for comment. You ignore all of them, because the trial's not done yet, and the work isn't about applause. The next day, court is standing room only. Even Gelhair lawyer straightens his tie with extra care. You keep your expression neutral. Inside, you're cataloging every shift in tone, every stutter, every exec who now says, I don't recall to questions you have written proof they answered in email. One reporter tweets in real time. You see the post later. She's got the courtroom holding its breath. They're not wrong, because your story isn't loud. It's precise, not vengeance, exposure. And the more they try to twist the narrative, the more the truth tightens around them like thread pulled through a seam. You don't need a mic drop moment. You just need the slow click of understanding settling into place, one juror at a time, one headline at a time. After court, Clarissa texts. They look like they're drowning. You reply. They are. I just kept handing them buckets. Because this isn't a courtroom drama. It's a slow, methodical autopsy of power. And you're the one with the scalpel. The verdict drops like a whispered earthquake. You win. Not just damages, though. There are plenty of those. 6 figures. Public record. But something more satisfying. The court mandates an internal audit of Baxton Holdings' HR policies. A full one. External. Transparent. And with quarterly reviews for 2 years. You don't smile. You nod. That's enough. But Baxton panics. Within hours of the ruling, they post a formal apology on their website. Short. Clinical. Hollow. Then it starts to go viral. Not because of the content, because of the comments. Hundreds. Then thousands. Former employees chime in. Anonymous accounts with usernames like xBaxtonGhost and HR Burnout 84. They tell their stories. One by one, like dominoes, the narrative spins out of Baxton's control. And that's when the second apology drops. This time it's a video. The CEO, looking suddenly very human, tries to apologize for the perception of wrongdoing. You watch it muted, sipping tea, and read the closed captions. At one point he says, "We didn't handle this as well as we could have." You close the video, reopen your laptop, and upload one document. A statement of your own. Calm, short, direct. You don't name names. You don't attack. You just tell the truth clearly, chronologically, and without the need for revenge language. You write, "I didn't file this case to ruin anyone. I filed it so no one else had to feel what I did. Isolated, erased, silenced." The result speaks for itself. People start quoting it, even major outlets. And suddenly you're the story. Not the scandal, not the dollar amount. You go to bed that night not feeling victorious, just heard. Because for once, they're not talking over you, they're listening. And what they hear is the sound of a woman they once called weak, writing her own ending. They wire the money to your account. You don't touch it for weeks. It sits there undisturbed like a trophy in a drawer you never asked for. You receive an email from their legal team. "We hope this concludes matters satisfactorily." You draft a reply, then delete it. Instead, you log into the foundation you've quietly started. It's small for now, just a name, a mission statement, a few contacts. But it will grow, because that's where the money's going. To others like you, people fired quietly, gaslit legally, told to be professional while being stepped on in stilettos. You read the terms of the final settlement. They offered a confidentiality clause. You crossed it out, and they signed anyway, because by the end, they needed you gone more than they needed to win. A month later, a young woman emails you. She says she worked under the same team, saw the whole thing unfold. She thanks you not with flowers or praise, but with her own receipts. You add them to the archive. The story might be over, but the echo remains. You walk past your old office building one morning. Different security guard, different interns, same marble lobby. You stand outside for a moment, not to stare, not to gloat, just to remember how they underestimated you, how they called you background noise, how they forgot that quiet doesn't mean compliant. You take a breath, then keep walking. Because you didn't win to go back. You won to move forward with truth, with receipts, and with that signature, Sloan Mercer calm. The kind that makes people shift in their seats, not because you're shouting, but because you're about to speak. And when you do, they'll remember it for the rest of their careers. The courtroom smells like paper and polish the day judgment closes. There's no audience left, no press, no buzz. Just you, the court clerk, and your shadow on the marble floor. It's the first time you've heard it this quiet since all of this began. You sign the final document. One signature, that's it. You expected to feel more anger, more vindication, something cinematic. Instead, it feels like putting down a weight you didn't realize you'd been carrying in your throat. The clerk smiles politely. You nod. No grand exit. You just walk out the same door you entered months ago, but somehow it feels like a different hallway. Outside, the air hits you like a reset. Not fresh, but clear. You pass a newsstand. Your story's still on the front page of a business weekly. The headline is more dramatic than you'd like, but the byline nails it. Quiet power. How one woman rewrote the rules in court. You don't buy it. You already lived it. Later, you're home watching sunlight bend across your desk. There's a box in the corner full of everything you saved. Evidence, notes, printouts with ink-stained edges. You leave it closed. Instead, you open your laptop, draft an email to a legal aid center. You're volunteering part-time now, helping others learn how to write their own stories, how to speak in footnotes, how to respond to silence with structure. Not because you want a legacy, but because no one helped you, and someone should have. You pour a glass of wine, lavender candle lit. Music low, not for the drama, but for the exhale. The final line in your notebook reads, "They thought I'd disappear. Instead, I built a map." And for the first time in forever, you sleep through the night. No alarms, no arguments in your dreams, just quiet, the kind that finally belongs to you. You didn't ask to be anyone's symbol. You just wanted the truth to matter. And somewhere between the wrongful termination and that first court filing, you became something more dangerous than loud. You became undeniable. They underestimated you because you weren't flashy, because you took notes instead of space, because you didn't push back when they spoke over you in meetings. But what they forgot, what they never realized, is that quiet people remember everything. Every offhand comment, every contradiction, every policy they broke assuming no one would notice. They thought you'd accept the exit package, disappear quietly, and maybe cry in your car. They didn't see you sitting at your kitchen table at 2 a.m., decoding company bylaws with highlighters and mint tea. They didn't picture you showing up in court with a color-coded binder and a voice that never trembled. They didn't see the stillness for what it was. Control. You didn't need to scream to be heard. You didn't need fire to burn them down. You needed a file folder, a time-stamped email, and the courage to keep going when no one believed you could. Now, your story's out there, not as a cautionary tale, but as a blueprint for every underestimated professional who's been told they're too quiet, too kind, too small to matter. You showed them what quiet can do. And when the gavel came down, it didn't just end a case. It closed a chapter and opened a door.